Whoa, breaking major news this morning. The ICJ announced this morning that Israel must immediately halt their offensive in Rafah. Now, we're going to play that announcement from the ICJ, and I want to explain to you a little bit more what this means, because notice they said Rafah. They didn't say Gaza. So it's specifically the Rafah portion. Is Israel listening to the ICJ? Of course not. They're doing what they want to do anyway. They're still attacking people in Rafah and also attacked people after this announcement was made. We'll get into that as well. But this is a strong statement from the ICJ that I don't think the West really expected to hear. Let's get into that.
The court considers that in conformity with its obligations under the Genocide Convention, Israel must immediately halt its military offensive and any other action in the Rafah governorate which may inflict on the Palestinian group in Gaza conditions of life that could bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. In the present circumstances, the court is also of the view that in order to preserve evidence related to allegations of acts falling within the scope of Article 2 and Article 3 of the Genocide Convention, Israel must take effective measures to ensure the unimpeded access to the Gaza Strip of any commission of inquiry, fact-finding mission, or other investigative body mandated by competent organs of the United Nations to investigate allegations of genocide.
So this man's face has been all over social media today and all over major news networks as well. Yes, Israel obviously considers this to be pretty, I guess, embarrassing. They feel like, how dare they tell us what we can't do in Rafah. But I think that this does speak volumes. What you are going to see with this particular segment is that more countries are starting to turn away from Israel. I told you that France and Germany have broken away from the United States, and they decided that they are going to abide by the statement from the ICC to pursue arrest warrants against Netanyahu and Hamas. I would say a lot of this is more focused on Hamas more so than it is Netanyahu, but they tied them in together. But they are going to listen to that, whereas the U.S. government and the State Department in particular said they are not going to listen to what the ICC prosecutor has to say, and that Israel doesn't have to abide by it. Now we get the ruling from the ICJ this morning saying that Israel must halt all operations in Rafah, partly due to a humanitarian crisis. This is coming from the ICJ. So it is embarrassing to a state like Israel, where now you have a court that has been critical of leaders like Vladimir Putin, now giving, a similar critique towards Netanyahu and the state of Israel, which the West is supposed to be aligned with. So obviously, of course, Israel is going to continue to do what they want to do. But what it does show you is that the world is turning against Israel, which is exactly what Joe Biden had said to Netanyahu. He said Israel is losing support, and it's only getting worse and worse over time. Now, not every judge from the ICJ voted for this measure. Of course, the token here. We've seen her face before. These are the two judges that decided to vote against that measure. Now, I want to show you here from Solomon. These two ICJ judges once again voted against stopping the Israeli attack on Rafah. So, this woman here, Judge Julia, she's from Uganda. And of course, Judge Barak is from Israel. So we expect him to go that way. However, you, Miss Ma'am, you from Uganda, there is always, what did I tell you guys? There's always a black face to do the bidding. Always, always. So somehow they got a hold of her. Israel has some type of hold over her, or the Israeli lobby has some type of hold over her. So she sold out. I told you there's always one. If it's not Linda Thomas Greenfield, what was her name? Linda Thomas Greenfield, the UN ambassador. If it's not her raising her hand, it's this woman from Uganda. If it's not, it's always, every time. So I wanted you to know it wasn't unanimous, and those two did vote against it. Now, I want to show you, I don't know why we have, hold on one second. I want to show you what Arab ambassadors are saying about this. I want to make sure I'm bringing up the correct one. One second. Is this the same one? Did I put the same one here? Oh, I put the same one here. I'm sorry. Hold on. Because Arab ambassadors responded to this earlier too. I just want to go ahead and bring this up. Sorry, guys. I accidentally put the wrong link there. Here it is. Okay. So listen to this. This is Arab ambassadors reacting to the ICJ ruling. So I want you to hear how they feel about this. I think you might find this interesting. Again, Israel has lost support. Make sure I put this on.
مرحبا، سأتحدث بصفتي رئيس المجموعة العربية لشهر مايو.
Chairman of the Arab Group for May, and the resolution that has been endorsed by the Security Council regarding protection and the issuance.
We're going to speed up. I'm sorry. We'll get to this guy. Here we go.
My brother Muhammad, and thank you for my colleagues, the ambassadors of the Arab countries. We decided yesterday in a meeting to have this press conference, and as said by my brother Muhammad, there are two topics that are of extremely importance. First, the endorsement of the Security Council regarding the resolution, which is mainly for or against the brutal practices of the Israeli forces in Gaza. In more than one paragraph, they call for stopping this aggression, protection of the civilians, protection of the humanitarian workers, protection of the United Nations employees, and to stop violence and genocide committed by some Israeli officials. And we need to respect the humanitarian international law, and all the elements mentioned in this resolution are quite important. And we'd like to thank Switzerland and the other countries who supported this resolution from inside and outside the Security Council. Voting was great. 14 countries were for than absentee against the resolution. The resolution is another resolution that Israel must be committed to protect the civilians, the international workers, and the humanitarian staff, and to provide the necessity of life for our people in Gaza in sufficient amount, very quickly, on top of everything, to stop fighting and to reach a ceasefire to protect the civilians and to save lives of innocent people in Gaza. This is
so this is Riyad Mansour, Palestinian ambassador to the UN. He said that Israel needs to stop the fighting. We need to call for a ceasefire so that they can save the lives of the civilians that are left in Gaza, right? So this is a little bit different this time around, because we are hearing from, Arab ambassador. We are hearing from other people since this ruling from the ICJ.
Is our first and top priority as an Arab group in the United Nations. We have done that through the 8 last months. The other important topic that happened today are the resolutions or the decision orders of the International Court of Justice. We welcome these decisions, and we welcome the procedures that the ICJ has asked Israel to abide by, on top of everything, to stop military actions in Rafah. And we said that there are certain procedures by the ICJ that ask to stop every military aggression in Gaza against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip, and the opening of Rafah Cross, and allowing the humanitarian aid to be provided to the people in need in Gaza with enough amount, and to stop the transfer. Around 80,000 have been forced to leave Rafah, and this is not acceptable. We welcome these decisions, we welcome these procedures, and we support the ICJ, and we insist that the Israeli authorities must be committed, must be respected by Israel and by everyone who are interested in stopping the genocide in Gaza Strip.
And I'll stop it there, because it almost seems like when I was listening to this earlier, I was like, it sounds like he doesn't really take a breath. But obviously he's saying there that he welcomes that decision from the ICJ, that Israel needs to halt all military operations. And what was interesting about the statement from the ICJ, they didn't say Israel needs to halt military operations a month from now, next week, or tomorrow. They said immediately, because of the humanitarian crisis that is happening in Rafah. But again, I want you to pay close attention to something, okay? Notice they said Rafah. They did not say Gaza. So Rafah is at the southern tip of Gaza, right along the Egyptian border. So pay attention to the words that are being used, right? So obviously Israel can still attack other parts of Gaza if it wants to. So just pay attention to that, right? Now, the reason why I say that they're losing more support, the world is turning against them. We have Spain, fam. We have the vice president of Spain, again, Western ally with the United States. She's speaking out. She's speaking out. Let's get into this. I'm going to translate it for you because, here we go.
Tenemos que presionar para que la Unión Europea rompa los acuerdos y fondos que tiene con Israel.
She said we have to press the European Union to break funds with Israel. Read it and weep, folks. Again, this is Spain. This is Spain. Read it and weep.
Tenemos que presionar para que la Unión Europea rompa los acuerdos y fondos que tiene con Israel.
All agreements and funds it has with Israel. So we now have Spain, Germany, France, Spain. I think Norway too, actually. These are countries aligned with the United States. Guys, the United States and Israel stands alone. Let's say it again. Say it with me, fam. The United States and Israel stands alone. How you get, Macron, he always, he all over the place sometimes, but he can kind of be like a loose cannon. You never know which kind of way he's going to move or whatever. But typically he aligns with the United States, right? But all of these Western countries changing their mind, speaking out. She goes on to say, to support investigation.
Apoyar las investigaciones sobre crímenes de guerra, revisar la compraventa de armas y presionar diariamente para
She's saying to end the sale of arms, folks. Spain.
Conseguir un alto el fuego y parar el genocidio. Hoy celebramos que España reconoce el Estado palestino, pero no nos vamos a quedar ahí. Seguiremos presionando desde nuestra responsabilidad como gobierno para defender los derechos humanos y poner fin al genocidio del pueblo palestino.
She said, put an end to the genocide of the Palestinian people. She said, we will not stop there, in reference to the arms sales. So I don't know, you know, this is very telling.
Vivimos un momento de la historia del mundo en el que hacer lo mínimo es a la vez heroico e insuficiente. Por eso no podemos detenernos. Palestina será libre desde el río hasta el mar.
So do you see what was significant about that? She didn't just stop with, we need a ceasefire. We need to end the weapon sales. We need to break away from Israel. And she didn't say Spain needs to do that. She said the European Union. She said that's what needs to break away. And then she went on to say at the end, which she didn't have to, but she went on to say at the end that Palestine will be free. The United States' Western allies don't seem to be aligned with the U.S. anymore on this issue. And it's very clear to me that some of the other Western countries, you know, they are pretty tired of Israel's shit. And they're tired of cleaning up their mess. They're absolutely tired of this. So it takes Spain, it takes France, it takes Germany, it takes Norway to speak out and say, oh, look, United States, you're on your own. Biden, you're on your own. Okay. Do whatever you want to do, but you're on your own. We're out of this. So Spain speaking up. Now, that being said, of course, Netanyahu does what he wants to do. So even after that announcement this morning, strikes continue in Gaza as the UN court orders Israel to halt Rafah assault. So again, it was right after, and then they started to strike Rafah again. It says strikes hit Rafah after World Court ruling. Residents say houses and roads hit in central Rafah. World Court ordered Israel to stop Rafah offensive. 5 Palestinians killed in Israel airstrikes in Jabalia, medics say. So do you see this? It says Israeli forces stepped up military strikes on Gaza on Friday. Residents and medics said with planes bombing targets in the southern city of Rafah, even as the UN's top court ordered Israel to halt its offensive there. So the problem that we run into with that particular court is that it does not have any enforcement. So they can demand that a certain action takes place, but they can't enforce it. We had this discussion before, right? When South Africa brought this case to the ICJ and they said Israel has to do everything in their power to prevent genocide from happening to the Palestinian people, and that they would have to report back to that court within 30 days. I don't even know if they ever reported back or not. They were supposed to provide a report. But again, remember we talked about this, and Craig Markheimer came on, and he's the official that resigned from the UN over this particular issue. And what did he say? He told you that, unfortunately, the ICJ cannot enforce it. So now it seems as though this would go to the UN Security Commission, where they would have to vote, where this is the place where the woman, Linda Thomas Greenfield, raises her hand every time, right? Like, this is where that happens. But what it does show you again is that it damages Israel's reputation. And I don't know how Israel can come back from this. I don't think Israel will ever be able to come back from this. This is the danger about allowing one particular region in the world to not have accountability. This is the danger about allowing this one region to do whatever they want to do. This is the danger of having AIPAC, organizations like AIPAC, own our politicians. So you have a state that is unaccountable. And when they know that they're unaccountable and they know they can do whatever they want to do, they will do whatever they want to do. This didn't just start on October 7th. Israel has been treating the Palestinian people like dogs for decades. And anyone who's been paying close attention has seen that. Now, I want you to hear from someone. Shout out to Breakthrough News for this. This gentleman here talks about how he lost 57 members of his family. Imagine losing 57 family members. Let's get into this. Again, shout out to Breakthrough News for this here. This gentleman is from Gaza. This is in LA.
I am from Gaza. I born in Rafah. I lost 57 members of my family so far. And they keep more and more. I have families in Rafah. Every day I talk to them, they said every day we expecting not to be alive in the morning. The college things going on now, it's very, very good. They give them some hope for these young men and women to understand the situation and taking a side of the truth. This is very, very big help. They know it in back home in Palestine. When I talk to my family, they said they can't believe it that the American can do that. That's why sometimes I take some pictures, some videos and send it to them to show them there is a support. There is a support. There is hope. There is hope.
So when you hear those stories of people like him that have lost so many family members, it's very telling, right? I mean, I've never lost 57 family members, not in 1 year, hell, not in 1 decade. So just think about that, right? So he does feel like there is some type of hope. So again, as I said before, they do not have the ability to enforce the ruling, but the fact that they made the ruling in itself is damning against Israel enough. And I'd really like to see what's going to be in the history textbooks. Okay, 10 years from now, I would really like to see what is going to be in the history textbooks about this particular conflict here. Okay. And Eric has that poll. We'll go ahead and bring that up and then we'll get into our next story. Hey, all right. Will the ICJ ruling force the U.S. to call for a ceasefire? Okay, this isn't close anymore. It was close. It was close earlier, but it's not close anymore. Okay, 18% of you said yes. 63% said no. 19% said I have no idea. That is 1,066 votes. Interesting. I like doing polls. I hope you guys like answering them. Okay,